Hey guys, this is Sreekesh from One Byte Social, trying a new form of content. I'm very new to this, and on-demand video. But let's try this out. And yeah, everything has a first time. So today, what we're gonna do is basically have MindsDB deployed on AWS. MindsDB is basically an open source database on the cloud that has AI capabilities, so basically machine learning capabilities. So you can simply upload your data sets here and run classification and regression models on them, or basically other machine learning models as well. It also supports NLP and other stuff with the help of Hugging Face and, in fact, even OpenAI if you have that OpenAI key. So yeah, a lot of good stuff going on here. It's purely open source. You can actually contribute to their GitHub as well. It's pretty famous right now, and also has a decent documentation. I have to mention that as well. All right, so let's set it up. Before we do anything else, we just have to go to our AWS console. Once again, it's recommended that you are on an IAM user instead of working on the root account, right? So first step is simply like, first of all, let's just launch an EC2 instance. I'm going to call it MindsDB. I'm going to select Ubuntu because that's going to be our instance OS. And what is this? All right, I need to select a key pair as well. You have to select yours, or you can create one for yourself. For the security group, I'm going to select my own that already exists. I'll show you guys what it basically does. This is important actually. It's not very difficult, but still you got to remember this. Um, okay, so for this you just need to enable pretty much everything, man. I think if you go to inbound rules, you basically need to allow all of this. And there's HTTP, HTTPS across all ports. So all TCP on IPv4 and IPv6, and I think you're good to go. That's about it. That's basically the security group that you're looking for. And a few other things that you need to take care of. Yeah. So free tier supports 30 gigs of storage. I would suggest you go to up to 30 because I think the container itself. By the way, we're going to do this on Docker. So the container itself is going to take at least 8 to 10 gigs, and even like also for the instance type, you go to change. You probably should not work with T2 micro because you're going to need a lot more memory. Like MindsDB recommends at least 4 gigs of memory. I'm going to go with the T2 large because hey, extra wiggle room, and also it's not very expensive. It's like uh, maybe you can operate it for like 10 hours and it still costs you less than $1, so it's pretty good, right? So T2.large, that's the server type. We have selected security group. We also have selected our key and 30 gigs of storage. I think we can launch the instance now. Awesome. Now this should be up. Okay, so let's go back to the documentation for a bit, where they've actually, so they've shared setup for DigitalOcean, GCP, Walter, and I hope I got that pronunciation right, and CO Cloud as well, but they have not mentioned anything for AWS. I'm not too sure why, but so it's not very difficult actually. You just have to install Docker and set up the Docker container there, and you're good to go. That's the best part about having open source services, right? It's on the cloud, but if you want to self-host it, it's pretty easy to do that as well. So again, it's good on them to have Docker set up the Docker container, or rather Docker image, so that we can use it for ourselves. All right, so we can connect to the instance. It's very easy. You can do this on your command line as well. I'm just going to use EC2 instance connect. It's damn simple actually, pretty straightforward. There you go, you're here. All right, so once you're in the shell of the virtual machine, you just have to, first of all, the primary thing you would do with any Linux machine is update stuff. So sudo apt get update with the yes flag, and also actually we're good actually. Just the update should be fine. All right, I'm gonna go back to the documentation, and all right, so we're gonna need Docker, right? Now on Linux there are a million ways to install Docker or Docker engine, but I'm gonna go with this simple way, which is basically using this shell script from get.docker.com. Is their official shell script, which grabs you the latest Docker version pretty much at all times. So it's a very simple curl command that you need, and you're good to go. All right, so the update's done. I'm gonna clear the screen again, and Control V does not work, so you'll have to do Control Shift V, and you get that copied stuff here as you would. And yeah, it's that simple. So we did not really download Docker, we just downloaded the script. If you look at the command, We are just downloading the script, the get docker.sh script to install Docker here. So we're going to run that script using admin permission. So sudo sh get, and you can press tab to get the full name, right? So tab autocomplete. So you're going to, like, sudo with admin permissions, you're going to run the shell script get docker.sh, and it's going to take a while. All right, that's done. So it didn't take really long. So we have Docker engine set up as you would. Now the only problem here is that you do not have like you cannot access this without root right now. So the root access right now. So you have to use sudo every time you run Docker, which also means that, and if you want to do that, you have to change the user group and reboot the instance. I just want to avoid that, so I'd rather run with sudo again. Right. So Docker is up. So Docker is ready to go, and we're gonna go back to the documentation, and here we are. So we're gonna run this simple command. Again, it's up to you. If you want to just blindly start an instance, that's fine. You can also, like, so we can create a new directory to store the data that we generate on our database, which is something I assume you would want to do. So we'll go with this persisted command. This is basically creating a volume where it stores your stuff. It's that simple. So just create a new folder, mdb underscore data. I think it's as per the command there. It's even a different name works, I think. So yeah, even a different name works. You just have to change this. I'm going to copy this command. I'm going to paste it here as is. Now I'm going to change one thing here. So again, this is the folder name mdb underscore data that we just created. I'm going to change one thing here, or just add one thing here. I'm going to add a detach flag which is basically small d. What this does is that now once the container starts running, it's not going to spit out the logs directly on my shell because I want to do other stuff on the same shell. If you don't mind that, you could just remove that flag. It's fine actually. But yeah, it keeps stuff clean. If you want to check out logs, you can do that later on as well. So yeah, so the command is basically docker run, detach, D is for detach, P is for port on the host is 47334, on the container is the same, and there are two ports mentioned here. It's because one is for the MindsDB the graphical user interface, and the other port is for their SQL server at the back end. I'm just gonna run this command. Oh yeah, you need sudo to, as I mentioned, you're gonna need admin permissions to run the command. It's gonna take a while here as well. As you can see, one of those is almost 4 gigs, so it takes about 8 to 9 gigs of storage, and it also needs a better or a machine with more RAM, because again it takes up quite a bit of RAM. It expects at least, they mention at least 4 gigs, but more is preferable, which is why it would simply break on T2 micro. You can try it out. You can try it out. All right, we're done. I think we're good to go now. So as you can see, you have the container ID up here. I'm just gonna go to super user, so I can basically run all root commands. I'm just gonna run docker container ls. See the container up. So if it's up, yeah, there you go. Priceless Dijkstra, interesting name, right? So yeah, it's up. We can actually check the logs as well. So docker logs and the first 3 characters, F84, I think. And there you go. So you can see that the HTTP API is started on this port number. You go back, you can copy the IP address and go to a new tab and port number 47334, I believe. And yeah, there you go. Boom. We have MindsDB up on AWS in less than 10 minutes, as I said. All right. So now you can just add any new data sources or data sets. I have a sample heart disease classification data set up here. Heart disease data set. And here we are. So if you look into files, it's going to show you the data set as it is. So yeah, this is a classification data set. You can try out their tutorials and other stuff to explore what this can do. It's basically a couple of SQL queries you have to run. You have to create a new model, then run a prediction to see if the target value is as you expect, and I think you'll be good to go. So that's it for this video. Thank you very much for watching. Subscribe for more.